and welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for supporting this channel where we talk about everything Kenjutsu and Iaijutsu. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because I've been watching a lot of martial arts videos on the difference between Gendai Budo martial arts and a group called Koryu martial arts. In this video, I'm going to compare and contrast a technique called Uke Nagashi, which is a receiving or deflecting movement with the sword, and compare and contrast the difference between more of a modern style way to think about this and also the ancient way to think about it, or more the Koryu style. Before we get started with the actual techniques, I want to go over some background so that we're all on the same page with this. In general, Koryu martial arts are anything that's before 1868 or was founded before 1868. Those are more of an ancient way of thinking, more like you're getting truly attacked and you have to defend your life, defend your family, and everything's more serious and more regimented. In that standpoint, something like Katori Shinto Ryu is something that was more of an older style martial art. And then you have the Gendai Budo martial arts, which are more of a new style. So anything after 1868, those would be something like Aikido, Kendo, Judo. Those are more founded for self-spiritual growth and making better society and making yourself better within that society. So two different ways of thinking. First, I'm going to start out with going over Uke Nagashi as it relates to Aikido and sort of the reason why people do this in Aikido, and also Iaido, because there's a very similar movement in Iaido. And then I'm going to go into more of a Koryu thinking and show you why you wouldn't necessarily do it that way from a Koryu perspective. It may work fine for Aikido and Iaido for that purpose, but from a Koryu perspective, it would not necessarily work. And then because these are so dangerous to practice, I'm not going to show a video on how to do these, but at the end, I am going to show you some exercises if you're an Aikido practitioner that you can practice, which will give you some skills that will help you with your Aikido development. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you different ways in which Aikido practitioners will do Uke Nagashi, because each one does it a little bit differently. So I'm going to show about 3 different variations. So the first one that's general is he's coming at my head, so I'm going to block, and they turn the weapon, and then step over and cut. Okay, so full speed it looks like this. Okay. Now another way that I've seen this performed is as you cut, I'm going to take a deeper stance and let this slide down, push down, yes. So this actually comes up, and so you do it again. So he's going to come in, so I'm going to let that come down across my body, okay? Another variation is coming back, and then attacking. So I'm coming back and then attacking. So this may be a good exercise for Aikido because you're coming in, you're learning how to receive and then step over and attack. And that relates to the body techniques. So from a Koryu perspective, that's maybe not so practical, because if he's actually trying to kill me with that sword and I do those different techniques, I'm going to be in trouble. So number one, if he attacks me and I'm too late and I actually hit this against this weapon, I could break my sword, whether it's this way, or I'm going to damage my sword in some way. So that's the first problem. The next problem is when I cut, and when I go to cut him, he's going to cut me. So I'm never going to really get the cut in. Or I have to do what a lot of people do, is as he cuts, I'm far enough back, he doesn't get me as much, but I can't get him as well. So that proposes a lot of problems for the person receiving from a Koryu perspective. So in a Koryu art, his distance is going to be a lot closer to me. So my timing, my technique, my hip control of my weapon, and my distance have to be spot on. So I'm not going to show you how to do this, but I just want you to get the concept
of how to apply the knowledge. I'm going to do some from this position where my sword is in front of me, but obviously that's a lot easier. And then I'm going to do some from this position back here because it takes a lot more timing, control, distance, application to do it from this position. So I'll show it from both positions. Okay, now a lot of the older Koryus, if he's coming in and this is, say, the kata, this is not actually what you're doing. This blade-to-blade contact is not what you're doing, but the reason they did that in Koryu arts is so somebody watching would not be able to steal your technique. So everything is hidden within the katas. So let me show you what I mean. So this raising of this sword into this Uke Nagashi position would be completely different in a Koryu art, and here I'm going to show you an example. So as he comes in, and I am going to, this would be the kata, not the application. Now he's going to go back. Now he comes in, I'm going to actually come up and cut these tendons right here, because if you cut these tendons and slice these tendons, I can't grab that sword anymore. Well, that creates a problem. So if I cut those tendons, this sword is going to be swinging at my body at full speed. So I've got to be able to take care of that. So if my technique is off just a little bit, as I cut him, I'm going to get cut. So that's why this is very dangerous, and I don't want you to try this. But the point is as I'm cutting, I am taking that weapon away from the center line. So I am cutting his wrist, taking the weapon away with the back of my blade and throwing it in that direction so that I can get that blade away as I'm cutting in. Let's look from this position when I get into where my sword is behind me. So I've got to come up, catch this hand, cut this hand, and then pull the weapon off to the side before I can cut in here. Now what I want to do is show a different angle and show how really dangerous this is. So I'm in this position. Now, as he cuts, I'm cutting his wrist, and at the same time I'm cutting his wrist, I have to guide that wet blade away from my head. Now what I want to do is I want to show, he's smart enough. He's smart as he comes in and I'm cutting his wrist. He's going to pull his wrist off in all these last examples. Now what I'm going to do is if my distance is off and I don't happen to get close enough because he's coming closer, and I've got to do this without cutting his wrist, it's the same motion. So here it's, now to show you how dangerous this is and why you probably shouldn't be trying this unless you've had a lot of experience. From this position, I'm going to switch positions. As he comes in, see, I am underneath this blade, okay? So if I just cut his wrist, I am in a bad position here. So what I've got to do is, at the same time, I've got to create a position to where I'm not under that sword and I can safely guide his weapon off of my body. So there's a lot going on there, but the point is that this motion here is really not a block. This is a last resort. This is after everything else fails. Am I going to block? This movement is a cut motion. So this movement is a cut motion, and then it's a block or guide off. So that's the difference between a Koryu perspective and more of a modern Gendai Budo perspective. Just as a closing thought, I started training in Katori Shinto Ryu, and that really changed the way I saw Aikido, karate, and other martial arts, because when you study these principles of highly developed skills with the weapons, then it gives you a whole different perspective on how the Aikido training is approached. What I want to do is I want to leave you with a drill that I think will help, especially Aikido practitioners, develop some timing drill and a distance drill that would be helpful for your training in applying the Ken to the Aikido techniques. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this exercise slowly. So as he cuts, I've got to move off to the side. So as he cuts, I'm going to bring my sword straight up to meet this. And as I go off to the side, he's going to continue down. And notice there's not a hit. So it's not hit, hit, hit. See? So it's capture, let it slide off the way. I come in, capture, it slides off. Capture, it slides off. Capture, it slides off. Capture, it slides off. Tip comes up. Capture, slides off. So I think this will get you a better timing drill, and it'll save your weapons so you don't have to keep replacing them.
If you're interested in strictly sword training videos, I suggest you click on the link above. I really appreciate your comments that you put in the comments section because that helps me put together future videos. Thank you very much for supporting this channel, and I hope you got something out of this video that you can apply to your own training.